Welcome everybody, this is Buck Joffrey with the Wealth Formula Podcast. I want to start out by reminding everyone about the Note Buyer Bootcamp, April 18th and 19th. This is the event that I will be at, and I will be on a panel there. But it's George Newberry's event, and it is American Homeowner Preservation. That's the company, George's company, and we've been talking about them every episode for I don't know how many episodes. But they buy mortgages for pennies on the dollar. They turn around and keep people in their homes, and then anyway, they have this great fund that's been paying 12%. But they're going to teach everybody how to do this stuff, and I really think this is going to be an unbelievable course. I'm going to be there April 18th and 19th. Make sure that you check it out too. Go to wealthformula.com, and there is a coupon there for $200 off that course, and I am going to see you there because I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Also on wealthformula.com, of course, you can go and download a free copy of my book, 7 Secrets of Eternal Wealth. And if you can't get to a computer, simply text me, 44222, and type Wealth Formula, one word, 44222, Wealth Formula. Now, on to today's show. When I first learned about the concept of cash flow investing, it was like it was like a religious experience, and I talk to people all the time, and this is a common theme. And in my case, I went around everywhere proselytizing the virtues of cash flow investing to my friends who were doctors and professionals, and I got so excited about the concept and couldn't figure out why no one else cared at all. Anyway, the idea is so simple, right? Buy things that throw off cash flow, and when you have enough cash flow, you retire. Indeed. All of that's true. But if you've been down this road for a while, it's a little bit more complicated than that. I mean, I don't know about you, but it always cracks me up when I see someone for the first time having this cash flow revelation. And they talk about their passive income goals and how they're going to retire in 3 or 4 or 5 years buying real estate. Even if they're currently broke, how is that possible? Well, the reality is when you listen to a lot of the real estate podcasts out there, it might actually answer that question, because a lot of the time it sounds like all you have to do is get involved with real estate, and even if you're broke, it's that easy. You just start accumulating this passive income and you can retire. Here's the problem. In order to create passive income, and passive is in quotes because it's rare that it's truly ever completely passive, although you can be that if you're investing in a syndication. You have to have money in the first place, right? At the source of the wealth formula is math. There is an equation, and I talk about this all the time. It's wealth equals the product of leverage times mass times velocity, right? That's the equation. Leverage, we know, is using other people's money. Velocity is how quickly we turn that money over. But mass is the one that everybody forgets. So mass is the one we need to focus on. And mass is just simply how much money you have to invest. And if you have no mass, it doesn't matter how much leverage and velocity you use, you still won't be able to create wealth. And that is the harsh reality of cash flow. Now, this isn't something that just affects the broke either. I talk to plenty of high-paid professionals. I probably talk to you, and I know I've had some conversations with people who talk about how their goal is to replace their W-2 incomes. And the issue is that if you make $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 at a time, if you average about a 10% cash-on-cash return and you have a $250,000 per year income that you're trying to replace, you're going to have to get about $2.5 million into the machine, into the cash flowing machine in the first place. Doable? Well, yeah, it is doable, but if you're making $250,000 a year to start, you're going to have to be patient. And most of us, if you're listening to this show, if you were listening to this show, chances are you are not that patient. You're trying to figure out how to do it quicker. So what are the other options? What if you want to move quicker? Well, for one, understand that you do, in fact, have many options. And it's not just about real estate. If we want to move quicker, you might have to, in fact, move outside of the real estate box. You might have to think outside of that box and invest outside of that box. We might have to start looking into buying things like businesses, or do things that are a little bit more speculative once in a while to produce a lot more income. Now, in the case of businesses can either serve as a mass, a way to accumulate more mass, and then you dump it into real estate for that slow burn, or they can also serve, such as in my case, as standalone passive streams of income. But either way, the idea is that there is not just real estate. That is not true. As much as I love real estate, it is, even Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. You heard him say this, I'm sure, that his businesses buy his real estate. His businesses are what throw off a ton of cash flow, and then he throws that into real estate, and then they have this slow burn, stable income, right? That's the idea. Now, of course, the idea of buying businesses, starting businesses, all that stuff that I like to do and a lot of entrepreneurs do can sound a little bit intimidating to someone who specializes as a specialty and who's a professional. Maybe you're a doctor, dentist, or whatever, and you're working 50 hours per week already. I mean, who wants to start a business and have all that extra work to do? But understand that in order to create more income, you have two options. You either, in the case of, say, real estate or other streams of income, you either buy it or you earn it. And if you can't afford it, you have to earn it. And if you have to earn it, it's going to take you time. But that doesn't mean that, that investment in time has to be another job. You can also invest a certain amount of time up front, just like you put down a certain lump amount of money to buy a stream of income. And then you can leverage technology, right? So again, just freeing up your way of thinking is very important. And my guest on this week's podcast is going to show us exactly how to do that. So, if you want to speed things up and get on that golf course quicker, because that's what everybody wants to do, right? You want to get out there and play golf instead of work, not me, but that's what a lot of people say. Well, you won't want to miss this conversation that we're going to have after we come back. It is with Udemy expert Jonathan Levi. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today my guest is Jonathan Levi. Jonathan is an experienced entrepreneur, angel investor, and life hacker from Silicon Valley. And since 2014, Jonathan has become one of the top performing instructors on Udemy, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. It has earned him over 60,000 students, and he's since snowballed his success into the launch of a rapidly growing information products company, Superhuman Enterprises, which produces podcasts, books, and online courses. Most recently, he launched the Super Learner Academy, a private online academy where he teaches premium level masterclasses in accelerated learning and productivity. So I am talking to Jonathan Levi today. He is in Tel Aviv. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thanks so much, Buck. It's a pleasure to be here. I got to tell you, man, we got to update that bio. We just celebrated our 130,000th student and the launch of our second academy. I don't know where. I got to dig in and figure out where we gave you that bio.
Yeah, I think I just looked it up, actually. It was what was on the website. So
I got to fix that.
Oh, okay. Well, listen,
thanks for the warm welcome.
Yeah, I mean, 60,000 is not bad anyway. I mean, so listen.
Right, I'll take it.
So, listen, well, first of all, welcome to Well Formula Podcast. Now, Jonathan, I want to kind of get, into this whole Udemy thing, but first, take us back. You're in the business of creating courses, right? Creating digital products for a living at this point. And so how did you get into that? I mean, where did you start?
Yeah.
What got you in that
direction? It's a really funny story. So like you, Buck, I kind of had this career trajectory in my life that I thought made a lot of sense and that I thought was where I wanted to be. For me, it wasn't being a surgeon. It was being an entrepreneur, and specifically a venture-backed entrepreneur. and or publicly traded CEO. I had all these visions of what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a $1 billion business, like so many kids who grow up in Silicon Valley. And I even sold a perfectly healthy company in 2011 because it wasn't big enough and it wasn't what I wanted to do. It also wasn't impacting people's lives in a positive way. We were selling luxury goods on the internet. Sold that business and I went to travel the world. I got accepted to INSEAD Business School, so one of the top business schools in the world, in Singapore and in France. And along about that time, I kind of remembered how much difficulty I'd had as a student, both in middle school, high school, and college. I spent most of my academic career kind of drugged out of my mind on Ritalin just to be able to get through the coursework and sit still. And I knew that in business school, as I'm sure many people in the audience understand, it's not just about the coursework like it is at an undergraduate level. It's also so much about having time to build relationships. You can't do what I used to do in college, which is lock myself in a room, take a bunch of pills, and catch up. You actually have to go to the cocktail hours. You actually have to go and meet people and shake hands and be a human. And so I was very lucky at that time. I was interning at a small VC office here in Israel, just kind of getting some international experience to prepare me for business school. And I happened to meet someone who had been trained in speed reading and enhancing memory, so mnemonic improvement. And I didn't really think anything of it besides I want to learn how to do that. I invested in private coaching with him and his wife, who'd been specializing in this for years, went off to business school and kind of turned a lot of heads with that. I still didn't see myself as a teacher. In fact, I kind of plugged away at building a startup, which didn't work. I co-founded something with a couple of my classmates at INSEAD. Then I went back to Silicon Valley and tried to raise money and just kind of hated my life. I think I made it on the ground for 59 days. And I was like, this is not working for me. This is not what I want to be doing. I'm not happy here. I want to go back and live, on the beach in Tel Aviv. So I gave all that up and I kind of didn't know what to do next from there. To be honest with you, I spent like 6 months just kind of searching around. And so what I wanted to do originally with online teaching, I'm a big fan of the Robert Kiyosaki and I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss. So I wanted to set up a quote unquote passive income stream. And it wasn't for me to sit on the beach and do nothing. And it also wasn't, to put away money for a retirement fund. For me, it was all about buying runway. Yeah. I was like, I don't know when my next big startup idea is going to happen. I'm fresh off this one failure. I've got a little bit of money left over from selling my company, and I've got money coming in from, rental real estate and stuff like that. But it's not enough to live comfortably to where I can just, take 2 years if I want to come up with the next big startup idea. Now, I'm a stubborn entrepreneur, and so I kept looking even after we launched this little side project course. I did the whole customer development, lean startup thing. I researched, talked to friends, talked to potential customers. And of course, what I'm teaching is accelerated learning. So I opened up about 500 browser tabs on how do you teach online courses, how do you record videos, how do you edit the videos, how do you build quality content, how do you beat the ranking algorithms on marketplace websites, did all that research and launched a very simple minimum viable product of the course, thinking to myself, if I can just make an extra $1,000 a month to supplement my real estate income, my investment portfolio income, and the structured payout on selling my last business, that's perfect. That's enough for me to not have to worry. And if it takes me 5 years, 10 years even, to get to my big $1 billion startup idea, that's all well and good. In the first 4 days, we made $500 on Udemy, which is pretty stellar. I decided to celebrate, and I took off for a ski trip with some of my INSEAD buddies. I didn't have internet for like 3 or 4 days. And then I log in on January 11th. This is 2014. And I look at the dashboard to see if we'd gotten any sales after the initial buzz. And we'd already made like $1,200. Wow. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. By the end of that month, we made 2,200. The next month, we made 5,000. The next month after that, we made 8,000. It just went up and up and up and up and up and up.
Let's talk about this a little bit more because let's first of all, there's probably a lot of fogies out there like me. Although in this case, I do know what Udemy is. Tell people what Udemy is and how that works.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I didn't know either until I was in actually that position where I was launching my own startup, and there were some skills I needed to brush up on, technology skills. And I found this website, and basically you can think of it as the Amazon Kindle store, but for online courses. Now, Udemy holds a special position in the marketplace because it is economy. It's lower cost courses. There are people who have 48-hour masterclasses on there, but for the most part, what you're finding on there is the 2 to 12-hour courses. And although they are retail priced, typically at $95 or something like that, 95, maybe even 99% of sales on Udemy are under $15. So it's promotional events, it's monthly newsletters. They're running a lot of ads. And basically, I don't know the statistics anymore, but last I checked, Udemy had some 50,000 instructors with somewhere like 80,000 to 100,000 courses. So it's huge. And I think they have somewhere on the order of 20 million or 30 million plus users. I used to know these numbers, but it's become a smaller part of our business. So but that's Udemy in a nutshell. It's an amazing place where people can learn literally anything.
Right. So it's Udemy, and that's Udemy, Udemy.com.
Yes.
So this is so taking us back to that moment when you just threw that course together. I mean, to even get to that point where you made $400 in a week or whatever. What was the course? How long did it take you to make? Just to get some sense of. And when was that?
I worked on that course for 1 month in October of 2013, and it was basically repackaging, translating, and upgrading the stuff that I had learned. So I studied the accelerated learning techniques, which any accelerated learning expert worth their salt will tell you most of this stuff has been around 2,200 years. The speed reading stuff is a little bit newer. It's been around 100 years, but memory enhancement has been around since the days of the Greeks. But I didn't know that at that time. I had learned it from just 2 people. And so I translated their materials from the language I studied in, which was Hebrew. We translated it to English. I worked very closely with them. And then, as you develop the skill of accelerated learning, you read more. So I added some neuroscience that I found that was interesting and supported the ideas we were sharing. I added some other stuff about life hacking, and we put that course out there with, honestly, a really embarrassing setup that I wouldn't recommend people start with, but a webcam, a desk lamp, and a towel over my computer to try and reduce the echo.
Yeah. And that was like a couple of years ago, 2 years ago?
We launched that one on December 26, 2013.
Yeah. Part of why I'm asking is like with the, Udemy's obviously grown quite a bit, and trying to gain some perspective on, if you launched that course today, do you think you would have had the same results, or is it a different milieu?
Well, that's a very, very good question. I think it depends largely on the niche, because there are still a lot of low-hanging fruit areas on Udemy. And for example, every time a new iOS comes around, the operating system for Apple's iPhone, there's 3 or 4 guys. There used to only be 1 guy. And whoever builds the best course that Udemy backs, the winning horse for that year's version of iOS, is on board to make a couple $1 million that year. Yeah. But you got to be the one. And so it started out as 1, and now it's 2, and now it's 3, and they all compete, and they all kind of split that couple $1 million. But there are always new topics coming out, especially in tech. As new versions of software come out, you have an opportunity to topple the leader. Yeah. We're in a very fortunate position because, there's not that much new under the sun with the human brain and accelerated learning. But with that said, I mean, one of the things that we've really focused on that I think so many instructors fail is building out a more holistic strategy similar to what you're doing, which is, it really doesn't hurt to have a once-a-week podcast, and it really doesn't hurt to build your mailing list if you do it in a smart way that doesn't violate Udemy's terms and conditions. And just building out an ecosystem so that you're actually building stronger relationships with your customers. But with that said, I mean, if you build quality content, it rises to the top. And if you do a little bit of marketing effort on your side, you can get it to rise to the top, and you can, as I said, you can start to beat those ranking algorithms to a point where you start getting featured in search results more. And it's just like YouTube. There are new YouTube stars being born every single day. That doesn't mean that it's easy. It was easy to start out on YouTube in 2007. Today, you got to work a little bit harder if you want to build out your YouTube channel, but it can be done. It can definitely be done.
On Udemy, what's the split with that platform if you have a course?
That's a really great question. So if you send a coupon code to a student, whether it's on the platform or off, you have built-in messaging tools that you can use for mass marketing of Udemy courses only, and you can obviously send to your mailing list or whatever. You get 97% of the revenue. So basically, they're just handling credit card fees.
Okay.
If it is organic traffic that people find through searching around udemy.com, which is most of the sales, to be honest, you get 50%. And if it is an affiliate referring the sale, or Udemy is doing targeted advertising on your course, you're getting 25% of the sale.
Meaning that in that situation, does Udemy choose who they want to do targeting traffic for, or is that something that you opt in?
They used to, but these days, with retargeting and all the advanced tools that both Google and Facebook have built out, if someone visits your course by accident or visits a similar course, Udemy's doing a pretty good amount of retargeting, and that will lead to advertising of your course inadvertently. But you do have an option to opt in. So if you wanted to use the Udemy course and you weren't willing to give up your content for $2.50, you could actually opt out of that.
So the reason that I thought this would be a really good option for my audience is that Udemy provides a platform in which if you have really good content, you really don't have to spend a lot of time marketing. You don't really have to try to figure out a whole business. It's almost sort of like it's sort of like the Uber of digital courses, right? Where you just they'll do all the work for you, and if you can put up some good content, and that for busy professionals, people with a lot of skills like my audience, is a barrier of entry. But
totally,
this group that we're talking to today, my lovely audience, Wealth Formula Podcast, there's a lot of people with some very, very high level skills, whether they be doctors, software engineers, or even accountants or whatever. The point is that there are tons of things that people want to learn that these people know how to do. How hard is that? I mean, in practice, listen, you're obviously a raging entrepreneur like me, right? And so at the end of the day, these kinds of things don't seem like that big a deal. But is this something that you feel like somebody who's got a full-time job, who's really interested in a topic, could teach a course and throw it up there? Is that a viable option to have a stream of income?
Yes, especially if you're willing to maybe invest a little more than I did, because I had to turn it into a business because I'm constantly reinvigorating my content and improving it. But if you were to invest a little bit more time than I did in, having a film student come and film you and actually get higher quality content, then yeah, it becomes much more automated. And I want to comment a little bit on the kind of the passive income side of it, which is, for the first couple years, I was really stubborn. So for like a year and a half plus, I didn't even release a second course because we were making six figures and I was still looking for startup ideas. After that happened, I realized that if I spent a few weeks writing and recording a course on something that I knew backwards and forwards, which was personal productivity hacks, you had at that time an audience of 40,000 people. Today we have 130,000 people on Udemy. You realize very quickly if you send out that offer, even offering it for $10, and you get just a small percentage of people to buy, you're making not only the $20,000 or $30,000 on the launch weekend, but you're adding $1,000 a month to your monthly income. I I had a friend at one point who I was debating turning this into a real business or not. Obviously, I turned it into a real business with, 13 people and a myriad of products. But he looked at me and he was like, we looked at the numbers on my Udemy account, and he's like, after all is said and done, you're netting about 33 to 40% of everything that's coming in. At the time, I had a partner who I've since kind of bought out of the business. And he said, I have this whole shipping empire business where we're selling stuff on eBay. We have our own website. He's like, if I personally kept 33% of my business's revenues, I would be making 3-4 times as much as I am today. So there's definitely a really, really strong case there. And I do look at Udemy, whether it's as a business or as an individual, I look at it as a passive way of getting income and leads.
Yeah.
As to whether or not it's viable, I think it's definitely viable, but I don't want to lead people down the path of saying, hey, this is a one-click get rich, spend 2 weeks, put your course up. Because like with any passive income project, you're going to have to log in once a week and you want to answer student questions because that boosts you in the ranking algorithm. You're going to want to once in a while record a bonus video and send out an educational announcement because that's going to get you better ratings, which is going to boost you in the search results, and so on and so forth. So, I like to say that passive income isn't passive because even my rental real estate, once in a while I get a phone call that there's bed bugs or whatever it might be. So I don't want to lead people down a path of thinking it's fully passive, but I was making a killer 6-figure salary just on Udemy.
How long
in
was that course?
2014,
It was like
15,
a couple
and
hours?
even 16.
Like 3 or 4 hour course, or how long?
So the format I recommend, and this is kind of one of the secret sauce things I don't always share, but I think what's best to do on Udemy is a 2 to 3 hour course. I personally recommend 30 to 40 lectures broken up in 5, maximum 6 sections. We've done the testing, and that seems to be what works well for us in our niche, which is soft skills. In hard skills, it's a totally different ballgame because it's 10 times more competitive, and you want to give a 20-hour course on iOS.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry?
No, I was just clarifying what hard skills were. That means like real, like iOS. Or,
programming,
all
and
that.
programming and all these different. I mean, there's a great business in video editing courses right now.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be a video editor because so many businesses like yours and mine, Buck, we need video constantly.
Sure.
The highest paid person that I have on our team in the Philippines is our editor.
Right.
Followed by our web developer. Imagine that for a second.
Yeah.
Right? There's a video editor out there making more than a web developer. I think that's really, really interesting. So those are in desire skills.
So I think, I'm guessing there's probably people out there thinking, gosh, this is potentially interesting. So when you create a course and you're thinking about what is it that people want, how do you approach it? Like if I'm, say I'm a dentist or a doctor or something like that, as people like you and me who are entrepreneurs who, think about the marketing and that kind of thing, it comes a little bit more natural. But how should a person think about, course material that will sell? I mean, because you may have 10 things you could do a course about if you're a physician. What's a thing that's what makes it something that's worth doing from the perspective of people wanting to buy it?
Yeah. So there's a few things. The first one is, again, maybe for entrepreneurs like you and I, it's a very basic thing, but it bears repeating, is to build insanely great products that people desperately need. You want to be in an ideal scenario where you realize that people need something, and it doesn't have to be for personal life. It can also be for professional. We had a student go through our Branding U Academy in Uruguay, and the government there, just to give you an aside story about the medical field, the government there is transitioning from paper records to a government-approved software system. And every doctor with every private practice is scrambling to figure out how he's going to get all of his staff, his or her staff, using this medical software. So this guy took our Branding U course where we talk about this video stuff, and then turned to his mother and said, "Hey mom, I'm a young student. I just dropped out of school to do this stuff. I don't know how to use the software, but you do." And they're selling a course in Uruguay for something like $1,000 to these medical practices, and he's making 4 times the national average income just doing that, and he's only getting started. So think about situations like that where you have a piece of knowledge that people need and are obviously willing to pay for, and you're going to be in a very, very prime position. Now, on top of that, I want to add, and this is something that I always tell people, and one of the things that we really emphasize in our Branding You training is remember that people can learn everything that you know and more for free, online, on YouTube, on podcasts like this one. I mean, think about all the knowledge that you and I give out on our podcast every single week for free. And, now we're doubling down on that by doing our YouTube channel and doing our free ebook offer. And, there's a million guys out there doing a lot of these videos for free on YouTube. So you have to ask yourself, why exactly does someone opt to buy a course for $10 all the way up to $2,000? And the answer is experience and deliberate learning journeys, I like to call them. So when a student goes on to YouTube, they have to make a lot of decisions, and they have to decide and trust that they're learning the right thing at the right time, in the right way, in the right order, and that they're getting it. Whereas when someone joins my course, my memory and productivity course for $500, they can rest assured that I've structured each lesson to build on the next lesson. So I see a lot of people build online courses that are, here's 20 lectures about everything you need to know, and they've given no thought into the psychological state of the student. After the student just finished this lecture where they understand this piece of neuroscience, the next thing they want to know is how to apply it. Not, here's 3 more things about neuroscience before we get to application.
Yeah.
And so I spend a disproportionate amount of time just looking at an outline of my course and putting myself in the shoes of the prospective student of what is the perfect next thing for them to learn. And then on top of that, giving them a feeling that they went on a complete journey and they learned everything in one place. Now, in our course, that's a little bit different because we love to give bonus resources and homework that's optional, but we still want to leave the student with an impression that if you buy this course, and there's always refund policy. So if you're in this course, you are learning everything that you need to know in exactly the right order, and I'm here with you to ensure your success. And that's the big difference between free content and paid in my mind.
Right. And the funny thing is, though, to your credit, I think you take it to a much deeper level. I mean,
I'm fanatical about it.
I buy Udemy courses because we talked a little bit about this. I love Udemy, and I love learning about new stuff, and it's so easy. Just go there and you $7 or $8, or there's even a lot of free stuff on there. And you can and I just sort of pile up these courses, and I never watch them, of course, because I don't have time.
Exactly.
But though sometimes I watch them, and it's like, this is awful. This is terrible,
Right.
And so there definitely is a spectrum, and I say that not for just the purpose of people knowing that, listen, you don't all have to be Jonathan Levi to make a few bucks on Udemy. You can, but
Totally.
if you make an honest effort and you have real content and you find what people are interested in, you have an opportunity to make money. Now, that leaves me, and I think a lot of people wondering, well, how do I get started? So,
Right.
So,
I want to take a quick second to comment on that, because even if you're not making money on the Udemy course itself in a significant way, I'll tell you a story that may be really relevant to your audience. My videographer, I used to have a videographer. Now I have a studio in my house where it's all set up to my height and specs. But I had a videographer who helped me with the second version of my course, and then my second course itself, and then third course and fourth course. And pretty quickly he realized, like, hey, this Udemy thing is exploding. So of course he did what many people in your audience are thinking about doing, and he recorded some really killer quality courses on video production. And he makes a couple $100 a month from them. Yeah. It's not a huge success. But I recently asked him, I was like, is it worth it? Or, because I never really encouraged him to do the courses, but I also didn't talk him out of it. And he said, oh, it's absolutely been worth it because potential clients see that and they may watch the video, those 10 or 20 people who watch the whole course go, okay, this shit's really complicated. I'd rather just pay him $5,000 to shoot my commercial. And it's been similar to, how a book is. A lot of folks have a book like myself. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that you check out that book and then engage me, right? And so even if it's not a huge success in that capacity, if you're a holistic medicine doctor or you're a functional medicine doctor and you teach a course and the punchline of that course is, but, you really should come in for testing, Udemy actually facilitates that. You can only do it in the bonus lecture, but you can use this as an incredible way to actually get paid to bring leads into your funnel. Likewise, if you're a real estate investor and you build a course on real estate, your bonus lecture could literally be, contact me for a free consultation because we may have some properties that interest you. So I want to emphasize that like a book, it can be part of your existing business and the end sum game. And this is why, as you said, Buck, you see so many free courses because you can build a hell of a pipeline and a hell of an income stream just building off of even free content on Udemy.
Right. So let's talk about specific courses. So I want to get started. One of the ways you can potentially get started on Udemy is actually taking a course on how to build courses, right?
Totally.
So
totally.
How would you get started? Because I know you have a ton of and I do recommend anything that Jonathan's doing because he puts so much time and effort into this. And again, it's not everybody who does it. So tell us about some of the things that you have out there, and how do we find them and what kind of resources if we want to get started in this kind of
yeah,
business.
Definitely. So I'll be honest with people. I mean, if they want to just understand the rules on Udemy, what you can and cannot do, and some basic recommendations, Udemy has courses that they themselves put out. And I wouldn't neglect doing a quick pass through at 2x speed of that video because it's, someone like me, I'm not going to explain to you the rules and regulations of Udemy and what's allowed and what kind of they have certain rules like 90% of your content needs to be video. That's not my role to explain. What we do is we have a couple of different courses in our Branding You program. One is actually a Udemy course for people to try out, and I can share a link that we can put in the show notes on that one. And that's just to get a feel for what's your message, what kind of things can you teach. More recently, we launched the Branding You Masterclass, which is basically comes out of the results from the success of the original Branding You course on Udemy, where we saw so many people building six-figure businesses out of a simple Udemy course. And we realized let's help them get the businesses to the next level. And so things that were a few sentences in the Udemy course are now an entire course. For example, there's an entire course on kind of my secret sauce of creating killer video content. How do you structure it? How do you write it? What are the things that actually matter? Do you really need all the lighting and all the microphones, or can you get by without? And goes into a lot of that. We also go into the video editing. How can you outsource it? And then we go into a lot of the how to build a business around it, even if you don't want to devote your entire life. So how do you outsource? How do you hire people who are going to manage this stuff? How do you automate the marketing funnels if you want to have an upsell after your Udemy course and things like that? And that is called Branding You Academy, and it's at brandingyou.academy.
Fantastic. And that'll all be in the show notes. And tell us about, other ways that we can get in touch with you. Obviously, if we want to look up your courses specifically on Udemy, we just go and plug in your name.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Though, as you guys know, if I give you guys a coupon, I save the 50%. So everything that I do and all the coupon codes to all my courses, small and big at the premium level, they're all at jle.vi. That is John Larry Edward Virgin Islands.
That's perfect. We'll put that in the show notes as well. And this is awesome, man. I'm super excited. Hopefully, people will take an opportunity to check this out. I think it's certainly worth I think an opportunity, to look at as an opportunity, because when you talk about it and you're talking about, hey, you can maybe you make an extra $1,000 a month. Well, there's all these people out there trying to make an extra $1,000 a month buying real estate. Well, how much do you have to spend in order to get $1,000 per month passive income or stream of income in real estate? Well, you're going to be spending over $100,000 plus in order to get that $1,000.
Oh yeah.
And this is sweat equity, and a lot of people just simply have this kind of information that other people want to know, and I think it's a great opportunity for those who are looking for things. So once again, thanks so much for being on Wealth Formula Podcast today, Jonathan. It's been great having you.
Pleasure was all mine, Buck. Let's keep in touch.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And listen, I talked to many of you out there, and you have so many incredible skills that when I heard about what Jonathan does, I just had to get him on the show. I mean, I think the reality is that, I think you guys out there, I think you can, when I think about all these skills you have, you can make some money this way just by putting a little bit of time up front and creating something. Even if it's an extra $500 a month, okay, how much would you have to spend if you were going to buy that stream of income with real estate? Quite a bit of money, actually, right? So spending 48 hours or whatever to create a course may be worth it. Anyway, diversify, open your mind, and be agnostic when it comes to making money, and it will free you. Now, speaking of digital courses, the long-awaited course that I am releasing is coming up shortly. It's called Your Roadmap to Real Wealth, and it'll be launching at the end of this month. This was a labor of love. It includes a star-studded group of faculty who make up my tribe, such as the Rich Dad advisors, Tom Wheelwright and Ken McElroy, Kevin Day, the Real Estate Guys, and Dean Graziosi. These are just to name a few. And this will also be the launch of the Wealth Formula Network, which will be our online community, and that's going to let you all touch base with one another. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, that's it for me this week on Wealth Formula Podcast. This is Buck Joffrey signing off.